press that button. Okay. So we are at top of the hour. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our second day of this power event. And today it might be early morning for many. And our first speaker is Khurram. Khurram, I think without further ado, we're on top of the hour. I leave the floor to you, and I can see your PowerPoint. So yeah, feel free to start whenever you feel good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I hope you can see my PowerPoint in the full screen mode.
Yes, that's the case. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me for this conversation. For the people on the call, my name is Khurram Zaki. I'm the product manager for Dynamics 365 Unified Operations at Microsoft Middle East and Africa. Product manager is a role that works with our partner community, our customer ecosystem, as well as our corp team, because I'm based out of a region or an area, as we call it at Microsoft. My area reports into the corporate head office in the US, and our job is to make sure that whatever we see on the ground in terms of our business, how we run our business, and how our customers are perceiving Dynamics to be, we take that learning forward to our corporate teams as well. From that perspective, I wanted to have today's conversation not from a technology perspective, but more from a perspective of how post-COVID our customers are looking at Dynamics 365. And our customers are looking at finance and operations, supply chain management, HR, project operations, etc. And what kind of scenarios or use cases we are seeing our customers work with us, or our customers take forward with Dynamics. That's why I kind of wanted to put the presentation with the title Rest in Peace ERP. It's not that much of rest in peace. ERP is not dead. It's not gone, but it's reimagined. It's a different form factor of ERP that we are not, as a consultant, not usually used to. So I wanted to kind of speak to all of you today to change that narrative, or tell you the narrative that we are hearing from our customers more and more. And that's going to be the theme of today's conversation. It's more of a discussion. Feel free to ask questions if you might have. I'm not seeing the chat window, so if there is a question on the chat, please feel free to kind of unmute and let me know about that. But it's more of a non-technical, more user-focused, user scenario-focused conversation that I wanted to have today. Like I mentioned, ERP is not gone. It's very much there, and it's still the central nervous system of any organizations. The backbone of your organization runs on the capabilities that you see on the screen: the vendor management, the financial management, manufacturing, retail, purchasing, etc. All of this is something that an organization is really, really betting their buck on. This is where their bread and butter is. And this is what we're seeing getting more and more feedback from our customers on how they are going into the nitty-gritties of these capabilities and trying to see what they can do better in their organization post-COVID. And this is very much in alignment with the market situation today. So the central nervous system that we saw, companies must adopt a new mindset to take the full advantage of this changing economy that we are under today. ERP has been around for a very long time. I mean, it's almost as old as I am, and you can see I don't have any hair, so I'm pretty much a dinosaur age person. But ERPs have been around since ages. But the value that it brings to our customers is evolving. This is this is the change the new digital era is bringing in. This is the technology advancement that we're looking at. Things like IoT, things like machine learning, things like mixed realities that companies still think about business applications as a single solution that is more aimed at solving a specific business problem in an area like supply chain management, or an area like financial management or production, etc. So we're trying to bring in all of these goodies, all of these nice new capabilities, all of these cutting edge technologies that I just mentioned, and bringing it as a packaged offering for our customers. And this mindset needs to change as well within our community. The cost of not changing this mindset is really high, because if you are working with a customer that is looking at not an ERP, but a modular application to solve their problem, this is where there is a difference in expectation. We want to make sure that our community and our ecosystem is very well aligned with what the customer is asking for. Make sure that we spot the trends, we react to the market signals that we're getting, and we identify the areas and processes for improvement going forward. And the areas of improvement are immense. For companies to take full advantage of the new business application era, they must think about the ERP as an integrated platform that runs the entire business, not just a single function. So although the workload focus is there, it is more of a platform conversation we need to have. The workload is more enriched when the data from different subsets of these come together. They must recognize that the data is flowing from every part of this business, and kind of, to advance their business, they need to streamline the processes, the employees, the way that customers interact, the way the product is developed. All of this must connect, and this must connect within the application framework to make sure that they get signals for improvement from across the application, and the decisions that our customers make, it's not in a silo. So although, again, the idea here is to make the customers ask is to have more of a modular approach towards problem solving, bringing the enrichment in form of data from across different workloads is very important. And this connected data makes the customer have a better sense of decision making and have a better final outcome driven by the application. It's easier said than done, and I'm sure you would have seen this slide multiple times from our Microsoft team. This is what we call our digital feedback loop. Collecting this data alone is not enough. It's about turning this data into an actionable insight, as we call it. This is what adds the real value to an organization. And Microsoft helps organization unlock this value with what we are seeing on the screen with our digital feedback loop. It starts by providing the experience that the people want to use. So be it in the online space, be it on their mobile devices, etc. And it's not only limited to devices, it's the interaction that these devices have with the rest of the ecosystem that this customer has within their organization. It can be third-party line of business applications, it can be IoT sensors, it can be other services as well. So it's all about how you want to use your application. And then it's bringing all those insights to further kind of enhance, do some processing, build some logic. This is a kind of a cycle of reinforcing the data integrity and making sure that this data is turned from a data to a information that is actionable and insight giving to the customer. This feedback loop allows us to optimize our employee productivity, give customers the delighted experience that they require from our applications, run the operations in more seamless manner, and also give the products that are future or forward-looking, not backward-looking. So based on the signals that we're getting from the customer, from the from the ecosystem, design the products that their organization is more better able to position and sell. Now, from a Dynamics perspective, what would you do as an end user and as an end customer? What would you want to do? Dynamics allows the organization to basically transform or digitally transform, as we call it, by removing the complexity of separate ERP and CRM systems. So the whole premise of having Dynamics 365 as a single source of business processes for the customers is it's no longer an ERP or a CRM conversation that we're having with our customers. It's more about how we solve a business problem for them. What is the measurable outcome we can generate for them, and how that outcome improves the business? What is the quantum of that improvement? And that's what the customer is really interested in. At the end of the day, they're interested in the result rather than the mechanism or the vehicle that's going to drive that result. Dynamics 365, as you all know, comprises of a set of customer-focused or traditional term CRM applications and a set of back office operational focus, traditionally ERP applications. And what you see on the screen is a subset of those applications across different, back office capabilities like commerce, supply chain management, guides. But how do you actually go to a customer and how do you talk about all of this? And this is where the beauty of Dynamics 365 being a modular application comes in. There are lots of use cases and trigger points that you can initiate with your customers. A lot of conversations you can initiate with your customers around Dynamics 365 and how Dynamics 365 can help without actually going in and talking about the end product. These use cases or triggers that a customer has for improvement in their organization they look different. They look a lot different from industry to industry or a customer to customer, but they are pretty much similar in nature of change that they induce in their organization. So when would you want to go and have a conversation with the customer about Dynamics 365? When the customer is adding a new capability to their existing ERP system, we're not talking about going and rip and replace an incumbent ERP solution that they have. We're talking about going and enhancing or complementing that ERP solution to give the customer more ability to make the right decision based on the technology investment that they have had. It's all about expanding into new geo markets. If a customer is expanding, if the customer is going from one business model of running into one country to a multi-country, multi-subsidiary business model, that's when we want to have a conversation around Dynamics and about the ERP capabilities that Dynamics brings. When it's about consolidating or replacing an aging system, or it's about adding sales automation, Salesforce automation capabilities, these are the triggers that Dynamics 365 can fit in specifically from a finance and supply chain perspective. When the customer is thinking about consolidating customer applications, which means having multiple applications replaced by one application that does the end-to-end business processing for them, that's a good trigger point for us. So a lot of different capabilities or a lot of different scenarios that we can use as a hook to go and talk to a customer about the nice and modular capabilities or flexibilities that Dynamics 365 brings to the table. And this is coupled by the multi-tiered architecture that Dynamics brings to the table. Again, from a deployment capability perspective and from an application to customer perspective, Dynamics finance and operations, I'd call it for ease of use. Dynamics 365 finance operation being a multi-tiered, deployment or configuration solution can be used in different flavors within an organization. It can be a core ERP solution that runs the business process for the customer end to end. It can be a second tier ERP solution, which can be a workload, a specific workload within the customer. And I'm going to give you some examples later on this, in the next slide rather, about this. It can be a sub-ledger workload as well, where we are doing something only related to a subset of business operations within a customer. And it can be a subsidiary ERP solution, so what we call a hub and spoke model. So there are different ways of engaging Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations with our customer and making sure that they understand the value in context of their business. Now, what do I mean when I say, these different configurations? Direct workloads are workloads that augment the core ERP. So I'm not talking about the core ERP, which is, like I mentioned, the end-to-end ERP solution, which we're all very familiar with. But what is a direct workload? It can be something that, augments or surrounds the core ERP process within an organization and adds a value on top of what the core ERP does in that organization. For example, things like time and expense, like fixed asset management, project accounting. All of these are examples of what a direct workload would look like when we are looking at it in context of augmenting a core ERP solution or core ERP business process. Then we have the subledger workloads. The subledger workloads are operational workloads that are related to a core ERP solution, but they are in essence related to a financial aspect of the core ERP solution. Financial is in the core ERP solution runs the back office financial or accounting capability, and the operational capability is run on the subledger workloads. Things like retail operations for a manufacturer or service operations for a retailer. These are all examples of what we would call a subledger workload. So this is where we work with the core ERP solution, share accounting, and run business process that enhances the reach of core ERP. And then we have the hub and spoke implementation model, and this is where we have the standalone entities of an organization that might be using a different ERP solution at the head office, and we can use Dynamics 365 or Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations at the subsidiary or at the spoke, where we would run it as a core ERP and integrate back into the head office ERP. Hub and spoke may be used, like it says on the slide, can be used for subsidiaries with tangential operations, which means separated or segregated operations, or also in case of mergers and acquisitions, when you have acquired a new organization, I want to quickly integrate that organization from a financial management or operational management perspective back into the head office. So there are various entry points that can be used as a segue into going to an organization and presenting the value of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. I'll take a quick pause here and I'll see if there are any questions. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the chat window, so I don't know if there is anything on the chat window that I should be answering.
So far, we don't have any questions.
All right, so let me move forward. What I want to do is now talk about a few of the use cases within specific workloads of Dynamics 365. So I'm going to talk about supply chain management. I'm going to talk about finance. I'm going to talk about commerce. I'm going to talk about what are the different cases or use cases that we are looking at when we are, looking at these workloads and talking to our customers. I'm going to start off with Dynamics 365 supply chain management. In SCM, we have seen huge uptick in the demand of the customers, and this is primarily driven by the post-COVID situation that has arisen. The organizations need to prepare for a shrinking global economy, and this economy is not just their immediate surrounding. This is a global impact. This is not just impacting one region, one area. Maybe one region, one area is getting impacted more than others. But beyond that, this is a global problem, of course. I don't have to reinforce that point, and we're all very aware of that. There are changes in the business environment as a result of COVID-19, and we want our customers to be really able to manage themselves better, be more lean, optimized, and see how they can actually change that to their favor. And as you can see, statistically speaking, looking at all the different reports that come from World Bank, from the top consulting organizations, the global economy is expected to shrink drastically. as a result of this current crisis. And this will result in a reduction in exports from industrialized countries like China, for example, where this is a massive impact down the supply chain, right from the manufacturer to the transporter to the exporter, all the way to the end consumers that, like you and I, that sit in different countries. Um, this will, of course, like I said, will result in a massive shift in the demand and supply pattern. And in order to successfully navigate through this disruption, organizations need to create a resilience in their supply chain. Um, One of the ways a lot of companies, that excel in their supply chain management, that are really good at their supply chain management, are going about doing this is setting up center of excellence teams for supply chain planning, for procurement, for logistics, etc. Um, um, this basically focuses very narrowly on how to optimize and improve supply chain and make sure that you know um, the investment that they make in the supply chain solutions is 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 really getting them the ROI that they require from such an investment, because supply chain for them is a key business function that cannot and should not be impacted as a result of any of this disruption. So visibility of supply chain, understanding what supply chain trends are within their economies is what they're really focusing on. And there are challenges faced by organizations doing that. Visibility of supply chain, like I said, easier said than done. It's not that you will be able to achieve the supply chain visibility with a flick of a switch. There are a lot of moving parts in that. The agility is a big problem. Organizations have gained efficiency in getting the data out, but in this process they have become less resilient to disruptions, and that causes any change in the supply chain to be really a massive exercise of replanning, etc. And the systems that they use to run all of these operations are usually different, disparate systems, meaning that they are not talking to each other, they're not sharing data. The people are not empowered in the right way. A lot of us are working from home, as an example. The systems, the people are not geared towards remote working, as one example. So these are kind of different business challenges that organizations face. These challenges were there before as well, but with COVID, the severity of these challenges have come and has been magnified multifold. Now, from Dynamics 365 perspective, this is the conversation we want to initiate with our customers, the visibility insight with each transaction. Dynamics 365 supports the customer throughout their journey in the supply chain, right from logistics, whether it's inbound or outbound logistics, right from inbound logistics to their warehousing, to their manufacturing, to their distribution, outbound logistics, etc. So throughout this journey, Dynamics 365 offer capabilities that help customer navigate and get insight at the same time through this new changed notion of a disrupted supply chain. So what that brings to the table is a set of functionalities and capabilities that enable a resilient supply chain for our customers. Um, Basically, the whole idea here is, from a customer perspective, there are multiple moving parts that make up a resilient supply chain. Dynamics 365 offers the capabilities to bring all those moving parts under one umbrella of Dynamics 365, whether it's the supply chain management capabilities that sit in Dynamics 365 around collaboration, around portals, etc., or employee engagement capabilities like mixed reality guides, where remote working of employees is made easier, remote interaction with the system is made easier. You don't have to have somebody available in person on site to take care of an asset, and so on and so forth. From a back office capability perspective, again, things like fulfillment, inventory management, asset management, all of those standard capabilities set that an organization require to make their supply chain more resilient, and of course, backed by the technology unification. This is a very high level. I'm sure all of you have seen this and are very aware of all of these different capabilities. But the real um, beauty of this is how all of this is composable. The composable means that it's not take it all or leave it all capability. This is a kind of an evolving journey to digitalize different processes that sit within a supply chain. And Dynamics 365 provides the agility and the foundation to basically build that system grounds up. Um, it can the systems that we have, the workloads that we have, can easily kind of latch onto your existing IT infrastructure. So you don't have to go and rip and replace your current solution that might be working okay for you for a specific set of transactions, but it's not able to scale up or scale out towards the new needs of post-COVID scenarios. So it is something that lets you work with your current IT infrastructure and with your legacy systems and latches onto those systems. It also lets you start with digitalizing your maintenance, for example, from a asset management perspective. So you can digitalize your maintenance. You can have predictive or preventive maintenance. You can integrate with field services to ensure that if the assets are spread across a vast geography, they're up and running 24/7. You can also leverage things like mixed reality that I mentioned earlier. So, where you have ability to go train your workforce faster, more secure, keeping them healthy and safe away from hazardous environment, be it out in the field when the COVID infections are on the rise, or in a dangerous situation where, maybe because of chemicals, etc., that you cannot go in and work as an individual. So provide faster access to these environments through mixed reality capabilities. And with this modern architecture, these solutions are much faster to deploy. So accelerated deployment that supports changing of business model for a faster ROI. So no longer customer has to wait like 6 months to a year to get a capability deployed. It's a matter of weeks, and it's a matter of days that we can go and light up a capability and help the customer run that capability in conjunction, in tandem with whatever solution that they are currently using, or whatever legacy applications that they're currently using. So that's a very strong, kind of factor that our customers are looking at and seeing the value of Dynamics 365 in supply chain management and in optimizing the way they structure their supply chain. This composite architecture allows you to have like two unique advantages. One is the reusable apps. It offers end-to-end solutions in a variety of workloads and variety of industries. For example, with asset management and IoT capabilities, we can focus on delivering a smart maintenance solution that is more delivering more actionable insights, leading to improved uptime of an asset, and this with the wider portfolio of operations such as like guides, etc., or remote assist, we can deliver that end-to-end solution on training readiness, not only training and readiness, but also from a maintenance factor perspective. The second thing is accelerated deployment that I mentioned. It supports incremental maturity model for the organization. What that means is by evolving the solution beyond the current state, we use, the reactive, for example, scheduled maintenance, etc., can be incrementally improved to make the business not have a kind of a shock in terms of change in functionality and capability, but more like a gradual change to adopt for the end user as well. So this over the period of time leads to an improved asset uptime as an example. So this is a couple of examples of how the capability, the composite architecture capability offers advantages to the customer. Having said that, what are the different use cases that we hear a lot our customers talk about? So our customers talk a lot about enhanced supply chain visibility. How do they improve end-to-end supply chain visibility? How do they know when to go change what supplier, as an example, or who's the alternate supplier they can go off to? Then it's about building agile planning and distribution process, gaining agility so that you can consistently deliver the products, capabilities that is expected by the customer from you on time by supplying by doing this supplier reprioritization or by performing the supply chain production planning in near real time. So these are the capabilities that help you from a conversation perspective to start off a conversation with your customer and talk about how you can help them be more agile in planning and their distribution process. Also help workforce optimization to how do we increase the efficiency of the people working, how can they do more with less people, and the faster ROI by providing employees with the support, training, tools, etc. that is needed out from them. And also about the asset uptime. We also already talked about these scenarios: reduced cost of operations, reduced downtime, reduce the manual intervention needed to manage or maintain the assets. These are the different capabilities that or use cases that you can talk to your customers today. You can talk to your business partners today and make sure that you embed these using the technology unification or the technology capabilities that that underlying Dynamics 365 provides to our customers. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is Dynamics 365 Finance. But before that, I'll take a quick pause and see if there are any questions. If there are, again, happy to answer.
In the chat, we do not have questions, but I made some notes, and I would like to ask you something about this modular approach that you mentioned, and especially the shrinking economy, and also the point with the deployment time. So what is it that you see if you see how customers run their project? Are they slicing and dicing them into pieces? How do they manage them? Is it more agile? And do they move away from waterfall? And do you see some companies still using waterfall actually as a methodology?
It is highly rare to be in a waterfall methodology now. I do not see that happening at all. Like you mentioned, most of the companies have gone into more of an agile deployment, methodology, and for them that makes a lot of sense. First thing is, the companies that we go as consultants and talk to, they're not IT companies, they're not ERP companies. They know how to run their business. They don't know how to deploy an ERP solution. And this is where our ability as a consultant comes in to advise them how best they can realize that return on investment as an organization. And that return on investment for the organization is not from a perspective of functionality deployed, but it's more from a perspective of how well the users are taking or adapting the technology and making it part of their day-to-day business process and getting the benefit out of it. So every dollar saved for them, that's the ROI. And that's how our implementation methodology, if you go to MCS today, you'll see that's how it's structured. And that's how our customers are kind of naturally expecting it to be. So we want to go and they want to go in, especially post-COVID, they don't want to go in with a big bang approach. They want to go with small incremental workload deployments that help organization get better in individual departments one by one. So with supply chain, we want to go ahead and start making the visibility within supply chain as first priority. And that's how we go in, deploy supply chain, show them how they can run reporting as an example, or what if analysis on different sort of supply chain scenarios. And for them, that's stop number one. Next would be finance, and then HR, and then commerce, and so on and so forth. So to your question, yes, it's more and more agile that these organizations are expecting our consultants to be.
Okay, and let me quickly continue on that. What is the most significant change that you see in this COVID phase or period? What has changed?
So what has changed is So when the COVID period hit, and economies. So I'll take the example of Middle East and Africa region that I'm based out of. When economies started getting out of the first initial lockdown stages, we were expecting that there will be very little focus on ERP solutions and would be more towards remote working, etc. But surprisingly, for us, and if you look at the research done by the consulting organizations and different economic surveys, etc., the demand for ERP solutions actually grew and grew quite significantly. It was not the demand for ERP as such, but it was demand for a specific function within ERP, supply chain being one. So organizations, instead of focusing on the bigger ERP projects or ERP requirements, were very narrow focused on specific incremental workload within an ERP solution. I'm using the word ERP on purpose because it kind of symbolizes the, the set of functionality that I'm talking about. But essentially, what the customers wanted to focus on today, I cannot go and rip and replace my SAP solution. I want something to work with my SAP to give me visibility into my supply chain, to give me ability to consolidate my multiple chart of accounts faster, to give me ability to go train my employees better and find out who has what skills, etc. So what they were talking about were more solutions surrounding their core ERP solution, giving them that additional value that they require quickly because of the changing situation after COVID. So that's the biggest kind of um, disruptor that I've seen in the market, so to speak, from an ERP perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Dynamic 365 Finance, and this is again where from a finance perspective, and actually that ties back to your question as well. More and more CFOs that we go and talk to, they're having multiple hats on. So the CFO now is being looked at as somebody who's an expert in organization resilience. How do they make the organization absorb that impact post-COVID that everybody is facing? They've become more savvy in terms of technology that they use. They're using more and more things like reporting, simulation softwares, etc., to make their business much more agile in terms of adapting to the patterns of economy. They are also becoming risk managers. So they are looking at how we manage the risk arising out of this change in economic situation, be it risk of customers not paying, be it risk of fraud, be it risk of us not able to pay our suppliers. So how do we manage and mitigate the overall risk portfolio of the organization? And they're also being considered as operational strategists, what we should do 1 year down the road, 2 year down the road to adapt, enhance, and take advantage of the situation rather than be reactive in the situation. So finance leader is truly becoming somebody who is a multi-role, multifaceted influencer within an organization going forward. But for them to have all these hats on, there are certain roadblocks that kind of prevent their success as well. And these roadblocks are very similar to what we saw in the supply chain management. The biggest of this is siloed data. There are multiple legacy systems working. They do not talk to each other. There is static reporting. The reporting is usually back or always backward looking. What has happened in your data does not talk about what might or what will happen. So, the siloed data is the biggest source of blocker or roadblock for a CFO. Also, the new regulations, new changes that are happening continuously, CFOs are not able to adapt to those changes. And adding to that, there is an increased footprint of threat, risk, etc., to the business from fraudulent transactions. This comes from the as a natural byproduct of moving a lot of transactional activity to online. So instead of physical transactions that were happening 6 months ago, the customers and the organizations are more and more pivoting on online transactional models, be it B2B or B2C, to fulfill the customer demand. And this kind of combines together to basically block the CFOs from having all those expectations that an organization has from them. With the Dynamics 365 capabilities, it makes it easier for a CFO, of course, to unsilo that data, look at the reporting not only from a perspective of what has happened or historic trend, historic data reporting, but more forward-looking, actionable reporting and insight that is generated through that data. And this reporting also, in compliance with what the regulatory requirements of the country or the countries or the areas or geos that the organizations are operating in. These areas, these reporting requirements like GDPR, etc., are changing for the companies, and it is becoming harder and harder for them to manage it through a static, rigid system. So all these capabilities work together to provide a framework of managing financial risk, reducing fraud, and running an organization in a much more a customer-centric fashion for a CFO. So these capabilities sit across different functions within the organization, sitting across the channels and the stakeholders, which are the employees, the agencies that we work with, etc. Sitting within the finance function that they are truly managing within the organization, and also sits in the technology area of the organization, the technology platform of the organization. Dynamics 365 brings to the table a lot of capabilities to support this finance decision maker, support this role to manage and enable their organization be more financially savvy, be more financially prudent, as well as managing the risk the right way in the organization. And these changes are like easier said than done. They're very, there are vast variety of business functions that you need to think about when you're enabling your financial organization. Things like, budgeting, cash management, things like reporting, workforce optimization, financial management, fraud protection, etc. All of these are different capabilities that you need to think about. And managing all of these functions seamlessly is a complex and a huge task on top of whatever you are doing as a CFO. So you need to be able to unify the technology for all of this. And this is where the technology base comes in from Microsoft that allows the customer or that finance leader to be able to unify all these functions to help administrate the team better, make it more secure, make it more automated, make it more integrated across different subsystems within the organization. This helps business functions to implement a comprehensive financial management solution and then streamline the operations of that solution. So it's not just deploying the solution, but it's also about streamlining the operations going forward. Now, from a use case perspective, what kind of different use cases we hear? If you look at the conversations that we have with our customers, it's usually around 3 points: performance, purpose, and protection. Performance requires kind of redesigning the financial structure and the roles within the organization with the right delivery models to make sure that there is right accountability within the organization, right insight to the people making the decisions. What are the future outcomes that these decision makers are looking for, and how we can help them create those those outcomes better for their organization, and all in all, giving them insight into every step of decision making process that they go through. So performance is all about how you essentially, running as a business, how do you essentially look at your customer and say, okay, how do I go in and get real-time financial visibility across the company for a data decision? How do I go manage expenses with the ability to set expense policies, or let my people digitally submit the expense reports, etc., and provide approvals on the go. So our functions within finance, fraud protection, and human resource let you do all of that different stuff. Then about purpose is about continuous process innovation and taking care of your people. Again, from a perspective of the organization, uh, it's not about just what it is today that we are looking at when we go speak to our customers. Also, what you would want to do going forward. Um, Basically, what you want to do is streamline the processes, and you want to minimize the administrative costs that is associated with the process. And cloud financial management solution that integrates between different functions or different data silos in your current landscape of IT. So this is what Dynamics 365 Finance is all about. It allows you to improve the workforce utilization, allows you to realign employees to new roles, optimize the HR programs. It helps you increase the employee productivity at the end of the day. We're looking at how you can retain the employees better, give the employees a better experience in the organization, whether working in office or remotely, and also the kind of quality of work that they drive. So all of this is, again, like I mentioned, part of the finance and human resource part of Dynamics 365. And the last one is around protection, guarding your revenue against fraud, which is more and more kind of prevalent in the organization now because of the change from a brick and mortar model to a more of an online transactional model. And the kind of use cases, again, that we come across or discuss with our customers in protection is around how do you control the risk by reducing the transaction and account fraud associated, operational cost, and the kind of wrongful rejections that you get from the bank if you're an online retailer, as an example. Or how to run an adaptable business while while kind of maximizing the financial performance and integrating, automating core business processes to support a better unified business model, which is unified across business processes, data, billing processes, insights, etc. So all of these things coming together to build a more secure organization that is able to basically reduce the chances of fraud and fraudulent transaction with your organization. Or how do you, if you're a retailer, how do you look at your revenue leakages that happen either in store or online because of things like merchandise return fraud, as an example, or improper discounting, or stolen merchandise either from your store or from your warehouse, and so on and so forth. This is all, again, our fraud protection capability as an example that comes through to give this ability to our customers to prevent the fraud in their organizations. Fraud is not just one type of transaction. There are different type of fraudulent transactions that can happen at different stages within your organization. All in all, with Dynamics 365 Finance, it is possible to run across all of these different business functions, drive strategic financial decisions, unify and automate the financial processes, reduce the complexity of multi-country, multi-company, multi-legal entity organizations, and reduce the risk that is associated with this kind of a structure, and also accelerate the business growth as a natural outcome for all of these different capabilities that come through. So with the kind of financial intelligence, embedded analytics, etc., you give the customer an ability to go in and have a better view of their business. I'll take a quick pause here, see if there are any questions. Otherwise, I'll move to commerce.
Yes, we have a question from Hitesh. It's specific on supply chain management. And his question is, my experience with consignment inventory is that there is limited support for this kind of inventory in the product. Is Microsoft planning to enhance the consignment inventory module? Example of gaps are lack of consignment return function, lack of master planning, support, etc.
So that's a good point, and that kind of boils down to fact of what we are hearing from our community like yourself. So we have great platforms for customer and community feedback collection. Our communities team, communities site, our feedback site. So all the channels where we get this kind of data come through. When this comes in, it is channeled through a triage process where we go and give it a weightage in terms of when and if it should come out. So to your specific point, consignment is an area where there is some work which is being done internally as well. I don't have the clear roadmap in front of me that I can tell you. Neither I'm kind of, I don't have that visibility in terms of what specific capabilities are coming through. But there are a lot of ISVs also working in this area in terms of optimizing the consignment inventory as an example. Each business or each industry might have different requirements. So retail versus manufacturing industry requirements within a specific function might be different. And this is where we rely more and more on the ISVs to give that last mile fit to our organizational capabilities. So whatever platform capabilities that come through in Dynamics, want our ISVs to take it forward. Consignment, again, I don't have the clear roadmap in front of me. As I understand, there are some feedback received on the consignment and there is some work being done, but if and when it will be released or when or what date it will be released, I do not have that, but I can definitely check that for you. If you can drop me an email, maybe that's something I can go and check for you specifically.
Okay, so these were the questions that we had so far in the chat.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Let me go move quickly to commerce. I'm just being cognizant of time here. In commerce, this is something very exciting for us today. And if you look at commerce today, there are a lot of changes that are happening, especially again from a COVID perspective. The current changes throughout the retail industry mirror the kind of digital transformation we are seeing across the broader business environment. We see more and more interaction of machines and AI. As new people join the workforce, both from a consumer perspective as well as a worker perspective, there is a change in mindset. There's more and more interaction with machine. Think of buying through your mobile phone. Think of buying through or checking out by self-service rather than through a cashier in the store. There is a lot of things that are changing. Shopping behaviors are changing, and basically customers' expectations about their shopping journey is also changing. So each customer wants a very uniquely tailored experience for themselves in store, on different channels as well. So be it through online, through the call center, in store, the experience should be consistent, should be very tailored to that specific customer. So likes, needs, wants of a specific customer is very important in today's world of commerce. This is where Dynamics 365 Commerce comes in. Commerce is an integrated set of capabilities. And when I say integrated, it provides an end-to-end coverage for any retail organization, yet it is also composable. Composable meaning what we were discussing earlier in supply chain. It can be used independently as well. So you do not need to go wall to wall with the commerce capability. Rather, you can break it down based on the organization needs. Helps you manage centrally and gives you visibility 360 degrees on your operations. It's truly uniquely omni-channel across physical and digital stores. So you can interact with commerce digitally, physically in store, on on the website, in the app, on the e-commerce channel, B2B, B2C, etc. It has flexible deployment scenarios, so it can be completely cloud, it can be completely on-premise or edge, and it can be hybrid as well. And then uh, kind of tying back to the first point, headless, intelligent, extensible, and continuously updated, which means that it can, as a composable solution, work with other line of business applications that an organization might have in their IT ecosystem. So this gives a tremendous flexibility for us to go in and talk about all of these different use cases that we can drive with Dynamics 365 commerce capabilities. And I'm sure you would have heard earlier on around our B2B capability that has been announced very recently as well. So, just a week and a half back, we announced our B2B capability. So, truly, Dynamics 365 Commerce gives an end-to-end coverage for any commerce related organization, be it servicing a specific set of business customers through any traditional or emerging channel. And these channels, like I mentioned earlier, can be the store, the call center, the marketplace, the social media, etc. So all of these different channels, we're able to interact with the customers. We're able to draw that customer towards a transaction. We are able to manage not only the front office part of that transaction, which is more around taking care of the customer, but also the back office part, the logistics, supply chain, etc. Um, all of these capabilities sit in one tightly integrated solution that can be used as a one end-to-end solution, or it can be used as a decoupled modular application set of applications as well. Um, Like I mentioned, Dynamics 365 Commerce supports both traditional and emerging channels. It enables the commerce delivery to both customer and business facing business B2B scenarios as well. B2B is in preview now, but this is something that we will see being part of the main product very soon. And on top of that, there is a wrapper of a lot of AI capability. This capability helps us service the customer or consumer better by giving them a lot of self-service capability, like bots and virtual agents, things like cross-sell, upsell, and other AI embedded decision making that helps a store associate sell better to a customer, and then also at the end of the day helps you kind of post sales journey of a customer as well, whether that's in form of warranty, that's in form of repurchase, and so on and so forth. So all of these capabilities sit down very nicely and integrate tightly within Dynamics 365 for Commerce. Having said that, what kind of outcomes we can drive together is optimization of retail operations with a secure platform that enables data-driven, insight-driven business transactions and provides a centralized kind of a foundation for a better managed merchandising function, better managed inventory function, and fulfillment, etc. All of these related to a retail organization. It also empowers not only the organization but employees also to provide outstanding service to the buyers across the buyer journey, whether that's for in front of the customer in the store, whether that's online, or whether that's through a call center. And to tie into that, it creates for a customer a personalized kind of a retail journey or an experience that elevates the outcomes, that elevates the brand's image and perception, and it kind of drives the buying behavior that is seamless engagement across all touch points that a buyer needs to go through. So this kind of gives a holistic journey to the buyer, giving them the same experience across all channels and making sure that the decision that is made at the start of this journey is culminated in a purchase transaction that happens anytime during that flow. So that's a bit of a view of what kind of use cases we see on the commerce side. Like I said, again, this is a decoupled solution, so it can be used with other incumbent solution or business applications that customer has in their organization. I had a couple of more slides, but I am just being cognizant of time. I think the slide deck will be available to you later on, so you will see similar conversation around fraud protection and project operations. But all in all, again, I just want to re-emphasize the point that we have broken down the silos of an ERP or a CRM in our application, because our customers today are more and more geared towards solving a problem, not using an application. So to do that, especially post-COVID, we want our customers to leverage these modular approach that we have toward business processes, make sure that they are leveraging our deployment platform the way we were discussing earlier in an agile manner, seeing the value upfront and having the right growth strategy in their mind to take this application from a small workload to a bigger impact in the organization going forward. So that would be my kind of final thought. Like I said, I have a few more slides. When you get the slide deck, you'll be able to go through those slides again. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that might be on this chat or call, or alternately, you can write to me. I'll write down my email address in the chat window, and I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you, discuss more details, and basically, see how we can together work towards a better customer engagement using Dynamics 365.
Yeah, thank you very much, Khurram. So far, we do not have any other questions in the chat. I think it was a great presentation showing us all the things that change and that come up, especially this modular approach. I think this is a big game changer compared to other software providers in the field. So thanks again for your time and presentation. And
thanks so much.
My job is now to stop the recording. That's the